Came west to a harsh land in order to survive. They all took native women and they called them country wives. Oh, those girls could feed and clothe them and show them where to go.
Today we're going to talk to longtime outfitter Charlie Stricker.
I was born in a log cabin in 1937 up in the Athabasca area, up close to the town of Grassland, where the big pulp mill is up there. The way I got interested in hunting, actually my mother started me. My mother was a great person, and she was always an inspiration to me. In those days, of course, everybody lived off the land. Rabbits was a big thing. Many people got started in life with rabbits. Rabbits were 10 cents a piece. Pretty well everybody hunted them. It cost $10 for a homestead in those days, and that's the way they got their $10, by shooting rabbits. 100 rabbits, and they got me interested in it. And the way my mother did it, every time I come home with something, whether it was a rabbit, a squirrel, a rough grouse, or whatever, she just made the biggest fuss out of it. She would exclaim, well, look at, they called me Bud in those days. And she would say, oh my goodness, look at what Bud got. And it didn't matter whether I shot that thing in the bum or in the guts or wherever, she would always say, and look at the great shot he made on it. So this was an inspiration for me.
It wasn't long before Charlie was exploring the deep recess of the Canadian Rockies.
So as soon as I got old enough and got some hunting experience underneath my belt, I was headed for the sheep country. And of course, I was always the type of guy that wanted to get to the farthest, the most remote country, because I thought that was the best chance for hunting success. So guess where I head? I head up to the Wilmore. So we started hunting sheep up there out of Rock Lake, and it wasn't too long. I was there for a year or so, and I looked around and I saw outfitters like Tom Vincent, Jim Babala, George Stashik, Tom McCready, guys like that, and I saw them making a living hunting sheep, and I said to myself, boy, that's for me. I can do what I like and make a living. So I started outfitting.
Charlie started out without any training and started his outfit by himself.
Next thing you know, like in about 64, 65, I had a fair number of sheep hunters. In those days, of course, sheep hunting was unlimited. You could take as many hunters as you want. And I started hunting out of Rock Lake, and then pretty quick I moved over to the Muskeg River, hunted out of the Muskeg for a while. Then I moved up to Grand Cache and I hunted on the sulfur, hard scrabble, and all in through there. And the next thing you know, the permits were coming into place. They were going to limit us on sheep. And at that time, there was probably 10 outfitters on the north side of the Smoky. And we used to look down on the Smoky And I always heard about the north of the Smoky was a good place. That's where old O'Connor hunted in the late 40s, and I always wanted to go over there and look that over, but there was always seemed like too many people there. So in 1971, we looked, and when the permits were starting to come, a lot of outfitters like old Jim Bubala and Ben Kilgore and the Simpsons and that, they packed her in, they pulled out. We looked across the Smoky and there wasn't a soul there. Couldn't see a horse over there or smoke coming up from any camps. And I had some native boys working for me. Old Louis DeLorme was with me in them days. Gordon DeLorme, Mike Moberly, Malcolm Moberly, and I said to the boys, I said, what do you think about going across the Smoky? And they said, it's a good place, let's go. So the next trip we moved over across the Smoky, and I hunted there for 52 days without seeing a soul. And what a utopia, what a great place. And I camped in the same spot at Crevasse Flats there for 17 years. Pretty soon, the wolves pulled in the early 80s, and did they ever devastate that place as far as game goes? They pretty well took all the elk and all the moose. They didn't hurt the sheep at all because the sheep live up in the rocks and the wolves couldn't hurt them. I probably had the oldest cook in Alberta. His name was Albert Norris, and of course his nickname was Suckum Dog. And he cooked for me when he was 81 years old. And like I told you before, David Simpson was my competition. He used to come down to my camp once in a while just to kind of check to see how things were going and find out how we were doing, of course, you know. So one time he came down there and he said to old Suckum Dog, of course he wanted to find out where I was hunting sheep and how I was doing. He said to old Suckum Dog, he said, I heard Charlie got a couple of sheep there the other day. And Suckum Dog says, yeah, I think he did. And David, of course, wants to know how big these sheep were. So he says to Suckum Dog, he says, how big were them rams that Charlie got? Suckum Dog says, I don't know exactly how big they were, but I think they were legal.
Charlie had lots of cooks on the trail.
And then the other cooks that I had up there, I had Helen DeLorme, old Eileen DeLorme, they called her Bannock. What the toughest move I ever made was, and that was probably the toughest. I had health problems, and some quit and some I fired. It must have been about 82, I would guess. And I ended up, and Hamilton Mosley was cooking for me, and she was the only help that I had. And I had 32 horses to move in my whole camp. And I had enough bulldog in me that I said, I'm going to move them myself. And me and Hamilton moved that camp from Crevasse to the mouth of Sheep Creek in one day. And I'll tell you, that was an undertaking. I don't think I've ever been so tired all my life.
Charlie Stricker was one of Wilmore's most colorful outfitters. I'm Shahil Leonard, signing out for another People and Peaks production.